First of all, the prevalence of asthma in India is going on increasing, almost doubling every 5 years. We have done studies which have shown us that asthma in 2005 and 2010 has doubled in numbers among school-going children. Asthma is basically a hyperreactive tendency of the airways. When we breathe in, the air goes in through the nose, through the central airways, which are like tubes, and these tubes carry the air into the lungs, wherein they perform the function. The air is absorbed into the lungs, the oxygen is absorbed and carbon dioxide is released. Now what happens during an asthma attack is, I have this beautiful tube over here which represents an airway. So if you see, this is the normal airway, this is the normal breathing tube, and these pink stripes over here are the muscles. They represent the muscles in the airways. We have muscles in the airways because that's what leads to coughing. If you see this inner lining, which we call as the mucosa, it is healthy. That's why the lumen is quite wide and air can go in and out of it very easily. During an asthma attack, what happens is the airways come into this condition. So here, if you see the mucosa or the inner lining, it has got swollen, it has become red, and because of the swelling, the inner lining becomes narrow. Plus, if you see, there is a lot of phlegm over here or mucus production over here. Now the mucus of asthma is very, very thick and viscous. It does not come out very easily. So what happens is the child goes on coughing and coughing and coughing, but nothing comes out. Many a times the child just coughs, coughs, coughs and vomits, but still nothing comes out. So these mucus plugs are responsible for that. And then if you notice here, there is bronchoconstriction. So the muscles of the airways have got constricted or contracted. So all these things together reduce the lumen to such an extent that the passage of air from the lumen gets very difficult. And as you may know that the whistling sound that is associated with asthma, which we call as wheeze, the sound is a result of air passing through such narrowed airways. And imagine a child who has got such narrowed airways, unable to breathe or going on coughing and coughing, coughing, how much suffering the child would be going through when the airways are in this condition.
I've been into pediatric asthma for nearly 30 years. It started because my son, who will soon be 30, is an asthmatic. I'm not saying was asthmatic, because once an asthmatic, always an asthmatic, but you can have remarkable control over your disease so that you can be just like any other person. So today at 30, he stands at 6 feet, he bungee jumps, he does free falling in the sky. He's just had his PADI license. So this is to tell people listening or watching this is that to be an asthmatic doesn't stop you from doing anything. I came to the city of Pune about 20 years back. And what really stunned me is that any family that I met with in the clinic with a child who probably had asthma, there was such a lot of problem in the acceptance. And even if I kind of explained to them about the disease, they would all tell me that well, we've been told by our doctors that it's Baldama, so in 5 years time my child is going to outgrow it. And I used to feel sad because that is not really the case. Once they accept it, the big hurdle is that the treatment is inhaler therapy. And there is just so much of thing about inhaler therapy is that they feel, the first thing that they say is that, can't you give us some tablets or syrups? Don't do that inhaler. We are, the village grannies, they say that we'll come for injections morning, evening, but don't do this, because they think it's the strong medicine. And then I have to explain to them that it's actually the mildest form. And what really saddens me is that there is so much of food faddism. They would say that we can't give kela, we can't give curd, we can't give sour things. It's not so. Broadly, of course, food allergy exists, but food allergy is not such a common thing in India. And there are certain food groups that can trigger off an asthma reaction, which is milk products, seafood, some nuts, soya. But what is really bad is preservatives and colorants, and this we can avoid. And mothers say that we went to a birthday party and the cake had a pink color, or he had some orange squash and came down with an attack. Common symptoms that they come with. It would be an interesting thing to kind of share this knowledge is that recurrent episodes of chesty coughs, cough more at night, early morning, cough on running, cough on laughing, crying. So these are actually exercise induced in a little way. So when you say exercise and you say, but my 1-year-old child is hardly running, but their child is crying and laughing. So we have to be astute about picking it up. Is the misuse of nebulization is that every doctor, whether he's an MD or a big MBBS or BMS or PHMS or whatever pathy, they must have a nebulizer. And any patient who comes with even cold cough, they're going to nebulize. And the public perceives that this is the treatment. So what if he gets breathless? The doctor nebulizes. So they now buy a nebulizer because you can get a nebulizer for 2,000 rupees. The chemist is going to sell it to them. So one of the things that we really try and tell is do not misuse the nebulizer, because you can misuse the nebulizer and run into great difficulty. I've seen it with a lot of patients who have nebulizers at home, but they do not use any preventive inhaler, and they've kind of kept on nebulizing, hoping that the child will get better, and then they've landed in deep trouble into the ICU. In last 20 years time, we are not seeing catastrophe. But in the last month, I actually had 3 children who survived being ventilated because of acute severe asthma. One from city of Pune, and the other from Miraj, who was admitted in the KEM ICU, another one from Samli. So all these 3 kids were ventilated. The parents nearly lost them. And when they came, they were willing to do anything, everything. And these kids need not have had that kind of a threat to their life, if only they did the inhaler therapy correctly. And out of these 3, 2 were actually recommended inhalers. And this is what I must tell you, that given in the right doses, the inhalers do not give any side effects. Asthma management is not rocket science, but asthma management is very much possible. We have everything in our country. We just need patients to accept the problem. We need doctors who will have the heart, they will feel for the disease and give the parents the time and teach them correctly and see that these children grow up to be a young, healthy adults.